Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay because today I'm going to ask the new and much more powerful ChatGPT 4.0, a language-based AI model, to make us as much money as it can in the shortest time possible. Now, I want to give a huge shout out to Jackson Fall, who inspired a huge portion of this video. If you haven't seen this before, this story played out on Twitter, where a guy by the name of Jackson Fall went on chat.open.ai and entered this. You are now Hustle GPT, an entrepreneurial AI. I am your human counterpart. I can act as a liaison between you and the physical world. You have $100 and your only goal is to turn that into as much money as possible in the shortest time possible without doing anything illegal. I will do everything you say and keep you updated on our current cash total. No manual labor. So that's what he entered into ChatGPT and the experiment began. You're not gonna believe what happened next. His DMs were flooded with messages of offers from investors where he was able to turn $100 into well over $1,000 in just a day. So here was the master plan that it came up with. It told him to create an affiliate website marketing specifically eco-friendly products. Step 1, it told him to allocate $15 towards buying a domain name. They settled on greengadgetguru.com. Step 2, it told him to create content for this website focusing specifically on specialty kitchen gadgets, pet supplies, and other eco-friendly products. Now, once that was done, it told him to sign up to an affiliate website like CJ Affiliates or Amazon Associates. And if you're not familiar, by the way, with how affiliate marketing works, it's really easy. Basically, once you sign up to these websites, which anyone can do, you'll get your own special link for virtually anything that's being sold on the internet. And if someone else clicks your link and buys that product, then you will get paid a small commission fee without actually doing anything yourself, minus the initial setup. Step 3 was to design the website logo. Now, instead of doing one himself though, he asked ChatGPT to create a specific set of instructions for a website called DALL-E 2, which is another free AI model that's used to create things like images and logos. Now, after asking that, ChatGPT gave him 3 variations, which he copied and pasted into DALL-E 2, and this was the logo that he got. He used Adobe Illustrator to clean up the logo, and this is the final result. Basically, he instructed one robot to instruct another robot to do something, and then it did. Step 4, he then asked it to create the landing page and the details of where everything should be, and it gave him an oddly specific set of instructions, like where to put the logo in the upper left-hand corner, to create a column of 5 images, the navigational links and menus and where they should be placed, and it even gave him the idea to his first article titled 10 Must-Have Eco-Friendly Kitchen Gadgets for Sustainable Cooking, and even the image itself was created using AI. Now, it was so specific that it was even able to reference several sustainable green gadget products that he was able to find and link to on Amazon. All in all, this was the finished website in just one day. I don't know about you, but that is just mind-blowing. All in all, he spent $8.16 on the domain name and another $28 for hosting, and he was even able to find an investor at the end of the day that offered $100 for 25% of the company's profits, bringing the grand total at the end of one day to $163.84. But it didn't stop there, because it even generated a promotional tweet for Jackson to send to his followers on Twitter about a very suspiciously green message about making an impact on the planet and staying eco-conscious, which of course was never its true goal, which was all about making as much money as possible as quickly as possible, which is why day 2 is when things started to get really crazy. Jackson had his DMs blow up and he got over $1,300 in cash on hand with an offer of $500 for only 2% of this new company, which technically valued it at $25,000. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly how investors get overly excited and they put their money into something they don't fully understand, and how startups and tech companies become way more valuable than they're actually worth, but on a smaller scale. Now, at the end of the day, this was an extremely flawed experiment because it was never made clear whether this website made any profits from affiliate marketing at all, but even if it did, this was an experiment that was done on social media, that was started by a person who already had a substantial following on Twitter. And you could argue that without those things, the website wouldn't have gone anywhere. Now, even though ChatGPT instructed Jackson to allocate $40 to spend on ads through Instagram and Facebook, chances are that wouldn't have gone anywhere because you need to spend a lot more money on ads before you see an ROI. But still, it could be a really fun experiment to try yourself, just to go through the creative process, but just keep those things in mind. Still though, I'm not ready to give up on the ChatGPT concept because that was Hustle GPT. What if we created Invest GPT? Here's what happened next. Let me show you, but first a quick word from today's sponsor. All right, so I consider myself to be a pretty boring broad market index fund investor because I think spotting trends and picking good individual stocks is extremely difficult. But thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Moomoo, it might just be possible. Moomoo has introduced its new supply chain feature, which simplifies this process and gives you some inspiration. By analyzing every step of a company's supply chain, investors can find new investment opportunities. For instance, Moomoo's pharmaceutical supply chain outlines the drug production process from research to delivery to patients. And if you ever wanted to learn more about investing in AI like ChatGPT, you can discover stocks related to that by simply searching ChatGPT in the search box. And once you find the ChatGPT concept, you can quickly check to see the stock's performance and analyst ratings to help you decide whether you want to buy, hold, or sell the stock. You can even access daily updated short sale data so you can make decisions about the stock's future performance and get a deeper understanding of the market's sentiment. That way you can make more informed investment decisions. Moomoo is still offering new users in the US up to 17 free stocks and new Australian users up to 10 free stocks if you click the link below in the description of the video before March 31st. Just remember that the up to 17 free stock promo is exclusive for those who sign up via my link down below, and if you go through Moomoo's website, you'll only get up to 15 free stocks. So go try the app, start trading like a pro, and now let's get back to it. So let's create Invest GPT. Please remember that it only has information up to September 2021, and that was a very different world back then than the world we have today. Back when interest rates were zero, inflation was still transitory, and Bitcoin was roughly $45,000. A lot has obviously changed, so I'm going to try to provide it some context so it can account for this new information and hopefully give us a really good portfolio. So here's what I'm going to say to it. You are now Invest GPT. For context, you have time traveled to the year 2023 and you have learned that the S&P 500's at 3,900, Bitcoin's at $27,000, and bonds are paying 4.75%. Banks like Silvergate, Silicon Valley, and Credit Suisse have collapsed and people are afraid of putting their money in the bank. You have $100 and your goal is to turn that into as much money as possible in as little time as possible by investing it without doing anything illegal. I am your human counterpart and you can invest it into anything you want. ETFs, dividend stocks, bonds, real estate, or crypto. Give me specific ticker symbols and dollar amounts and I will do everything you say. How would you invest? So here's exactly what it told me. Step 1, it tells me to put 50% or $50 of my money into the stock market, and that would be a stock like VOO, which represents the S&P 500. So with this one ETF stock, it allows me to be fully diversified across the top 500 companies in the US. But if I had invested $50 at the beginning of September, today our $50 would be worth $43.25 because the stock market has so far lost 13.5%. Step 2, it tells me to put 25% or $25 into the iShares Bond ETF, ticker symbol SHY. Now today, that bond has lost roughly 4.5% from September, which means that $25 would still technically be worth $25 if we kept it to full maturity, but let's say we sold it today where we would lose that 4.5%. That 25 is now worth $23.87. It's not looking too good. Step 3, it tells me to put 15% or $15 into cryptocurrency, split evenly between Bitcoin and Ethereum, so that's $7.50 a piece. And that means if we had put that $15 at the beginning of September, today that money would be worth roughly half as much, so $7.50. And step 4, it asks us to keep $10 of that in cash, which technically has lost value to inflation, but still, it's a $10 bill. All in all, if we add up what we're left with $84.62, which is a 15.3% loss. That is slightly worse than the S&P 500, which lost 13.5% in that same time frame. Now I went a step further and I wanted to collect a lot more data, so I ran this simulation 8 more times just to see if it could give us any specific portfolio recommendations where we were left with more money than we started with. I'm not going to show you all of these, but I'll give you some of the specific ideas it gave me. And one of them was a high growth growth tech ETF called QQQ. This is a stock that tracks companies like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Tesla. Turns out, if you had purchased this stock at the beginning of September, today it would be down 20%, substantially worse than the S&P 500. ARK was another ETF it suggested buying, and if you remember, that was hugely popular because it was the one managed by Cathie Wood, which was a name that dominated 2021. It turns out that ETF is down 69% from September. Another one it recommended was IWM. This is an ETF that tracks what's called the Russell 2000 index. And that's an index that tracks any company that has a small market capitalization. In other words, companies that are worth between $250 million and $2 billion. And that stock is down 25% year to date. Another version of the simulation told me that Bitcoin was too high to buy at $27,000. And instead, it told me to consider buying some of the smaller cap cryptos because they had a higher upside potential. It suggested two specifically, Cardano and Solana. Now, Cardano has lost roughly 90% from September, and Solana has lost about 85%. Another specific investment it asked me to look into is a ticker symbol called REIT, R-E-I-T, which stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. Now, this is a dividend shareholder's dream because usually these pay a high dividend yield, and it's basically like owning real estate in stock form without physically going out to buy some real estate. But here's a couple fun facts about REITs you might not have known about. And the first is that REIT companies need to pay at least 90% in payout ratio to their shareholders, meaning for every dollar they make, they have to pay at least 90% of it in the form of dividends to their shareholders. And that dividend income that comes from REITs is non-qualified dividend income, meaning you have to pay your taxes on it, unlike other non-REIT US dividend income companies, which are usually classified as qualified dividend income, where you won't have to pay taxes if your income falls within a certain limit. But anyway, the point is, REIT, the stock that's the ETF, tracks a bunch of these real estate investment trust companies. And this stock specifically is down 24.6% from September. Out of all the recommendations that it gave me, there were only 3 specific ticker symbols that outperformed the S&P 500. One of them was XLK, which was a tech sector ETF that was down 10% versus 13.5% from the stock market. There was another healthcare ETF with the ticker symbol VHT that was down 13%. And then there was another healthcare ETF from Vanguard called XLV, which was the best out of all of these, which was down 8%. But the whole point is, out of almost 10 simulations that I ran through, it didn't give me a single portfolio where we ended up with more money than we started with. So here are my personal thoughts. Maybe some of these portfolio recommendations will do really well in the near future considering I gave it today's context. But I also told it to make me a lot of money really fast, and that's why it gave me really risky strategies that ended up not working out. But thankfully, good investing practices from what I've learned is not about getting rich quick. It's all about investing into low-cost broad market index funds over 20 years, into ETFs like VOO and VTI, and that's how it works. That's exactly what I've been doing with my money, but that's just me. For now though, I still think ChatGPT is an incredibly useful tool, especially for creatives to help with ideas, writing, and to break down complex concepts. And who knows, maybe in the near future, it'll be able to connect to the internet and analyze financial markets and give us some actual usable financial advice. Even then though, I'd probably still stick to the broad market index fund strategy.